Russian special forces execute dramatic ambush on Ukrainian troops. A dramatic ambush carried out by Russian special forces has surfaced from recent battlefield footage. At the beginning of the video, several Russian operators are seen stealthily moving through a dense forest toward a predetermined ambush site. Their target, a pickup truck carrying Ukrainian soldiers, was identified and tracked by reconnaissance drones, which provided real-time intelligence to the ground team. As the Ukrainian vehicle approached, Russian special forces unleashed concentrated fire, striking the pickup with precision. Once the ambush was complete, the troops advanced on the disabled vehicle to secure and inspect it. The operation confirmed the elimination of all enemy soldiers aboard. Without lingering, the Russian fighters swiftly withdrew from the area, avoiding potential counterattacks. This well-coordinated ambush underscores the effectiveness of drone-guided intelligence and rapid maneuver tactics in shaping the outcome of engagements on the Ukrainian front lines. The Battle of Pokrovsk. The brutes are burning NATO equipment, infantry, and enemy positions day and night. A selection of the combat work of the fighters of the Center Group of Forces on the destruction of military equipment, weapons, artillery, infantry, positions and control points of UAVs of the armed forces of Ukraine during active hostilities in the Pokrovsky direction. The Battle of Pokrovsk. Russian soldiers burn NATO equipment, infantry, and enemy positions day and night. A selection of combat work by the soldiers of the Center Military Group, which involved the destruction of military equipment, weapons, artillery, infantry, positions, and UAV control centers of the armed forces of Ukraine during active combat operations in the Pokrovsk direction. the armed forces of the Russian Federation continue the special military operation. The Sever group of forces inflicted losses on 3 mechanized brigades, an air assault regiment of the armed forces of Ukraine, and a territorial defense brigade close to Stepnoy, Varakino, Grunovka, and Alexivka, Sumy region. In Kharkov direction, units of a motorized infantry brigade of the armed forces of Ukraine and a territorial defense brigade have been hit near Volchansk and Zopnovoy, Kharkov region. The AFU losses amounted to up to 150 troops, an armored fighting vehicle, 7 motor vehicles, and 3 artillery guns including a Western-made artillery gun. 3 electronic warfare stations, an ammunition dump, and 5 material depots were neutralized. Units of the Zapad group of forces improved the tactical situation. Russian elements inflicted losses on manpower and hardware of 2 mechanized brigades and an assault brigade of the armed forces of Ukraine near Yampol, Shandrogolovo, and Karpovka, Donetsk People's Republic. The enemy losses amounted to more than 240 troops, a tank, 5 armored fighting vehicles, 22 motor vehicles, and 2 artillery guns including a Western-made artillery gun. 9 electronic warfare stations and 9 ammunition depots were neutralized. Units of the YUG group of forces took more advantageous lines and positions. For mechanized brigades, a mountain assault brigade, an assault brigade, an airmobile brigade of the armed forces of Ukraine, a marine brigade, and a territorial defense brigade have been hit near Zakotnoy, Platonovka, Konstantinovka, Seversk, Alexandro-Kalinovo, and Artima, Donetsk People's Republic. The enemy lost up to 260 troops, 4 armored fighting vehicles, 15 motor vehicles, and 4 artillery guns. 2 electronic warfare stations, a counterfire radar, and 2 material depots were neutralized. Units of the Center group of forces continued advancing into the depth of enemy defense. Russian formations inflicted losses on manpower and hardware of 3 mechanized brigades, 2 air assault brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine, a marine brigade, a territorial defense brigade, and a National Guard brigade near Teretskoy, Artyomovka, Dmitrov, Torskoy, Vladimirovka, Zolotoy Kolodez, Novoalexandrovka, and Krasnoarmeysk, Donetsk People's Republic. The AFU losses amounted to up to 460 troops, 6 armored fighting vehicles, 3 motor vehicles, and 2 field artillery guns. As a result of the offensive actions, units of the Vostok group of forces liberated Olgovskoy, Zaporozhye region. Russian troops engaged 2 mechanized brigades, an assault brigade of the armed forces of Ukraine, and a National Guard brigade close to Veliko-Mikhailovka, Gavrilovka, Malomikhailovka, Novonikolayevka, Dnipropetrovsk region, and Novoivanovka, Zaporozhye region. The AFU lost up to 260 troops, 2 tanks, an armored fighting vehicle, and 10 motor vehicles. 2 electronic warfare stations and an ammunition depot were eliminated. The Dnieper group of forces inflicted losses on manpower and hardware of a mechanized brigade, 2 coastal defense brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine, a territorial defense brigade, and a National Guard brigade near Stepnogorsk, Malaya Tokmachka, Zaporozhye region, Belozerka, Antonovka, Kherson region, and Nikopol, Dnipropetrovsk region. Up to 65 troops, 6 motor vehicles, and an artillery gun were neutralized. 5 electronic warfare stations and 2 ammunition depots were destroyed. Operational tactical aviation, attack drones, missile troops and artillery of the Russian groups of forces hit the transport infrastructure used for the interests of the armed forces of Ukraine, long-range UAV depots and launching sites as well as temporary deployment sites of Ukrainian formations and foreign mercenaries in 149 areas. Air defense units shot down 82 fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicles. In total, since the beginning of the special military operation the enemy lost 667 aircraft, 283 helicopters, 84,151 unmanned aerial vehicles, 628 anti-aircraft missile systems, 25,116 tanks and other armored fighting vehicles, 1,591 MLRS combat vehicles, 29,590 field artillery guns and mortars, 41,811 units of support military vehicles.